What is happening, guys? Welcome back to another episode of Comic Book Weekly. This week, you got Kat and myself on the show. Brant, unfortunately, is not with us. He did suffer an injury yesterday. It was one of those instances where, you slip in the tub and you hurt yourself. Yeah, unfortunately, that's kind of what happened to him. He showed us a picture of his arm. It's not looking too good. So he is okay, but he needed the evening off. So our prayers are with him that he gets better quickly and that he will return next week. And he said he seemed like he was going to be a go for next week, which is good.
Yeah, so that should be fun, especially as we get to our summer schedule soon. So it'll be good to have the three of us for a few more weeks until we take that time for the summer.
Oh yeah, man, that's coming up quickly.
It is the summer. It's just getting to the summer is coming quickly. I keep thinking I have more time, and then I'm like, oh my God, it's almost the end of April, and I don't know where in April started. So it's one of those times. But yeah, we're gonna start with some news. We have some interesting books to talk about, and some news pieces because of C2E2. Not a ton. That's not really a big announcement show. I did go to C2E2 for the Artist Alley section of it. I love that show. I think there's some. It's a really cool comic show and media show. Like a lot of times either it's like just a comic show or just a media show. I think they do a good job of blending both of them. So that's cool, but it's not much of a news show. You're going to get more of that at like San Diego Comic-Con or New York Comic-Con.
Yeah. Well, it's good that you had a good time and that it went well and you had a fun time,
Yeah, I don't have too much of a voice. I feel like that's kind of lost on me because I was doing 2 events in a row, but great show, always worth it. This is con season, so you kind of get used to it. Even Free Comic Book Day, we're doing signings for that, so always stuff to do. But let's get into the news. Let's start out with some new characters coming along. So we got a new Gamma Warrior Powerlift, which is going to be in Miles Morales issue 33 and 34. That's going to be a new character there.
Oh, yeah. Let me click on this and see this new character. Now, the funny thing is like, this character is like, obviously, it's a Hulk-like character, right? I mean, listen, I give Cody Ziegler a lot of credit for trying to give Miles Morales like different characters or supporting cast characters or villains or whatever the case may be, because we always said the problem with Miles is having his own cast, so I think introducing this character, right, I think is it the most original idea? No, but it is at least a different character, and I will give it that. Miles Morales started off really strong. I don't think it's as strong as it once was when it started, but I do think that it's still a decent book.
Now the other new character showing up is Uncanny X-Men issue 17 is introducing a new murderous mutant girl. What I thought was interesting about this is, and I'm going to show the image for this one. I know that Gail Simone's a fan of Megan, the movie, and then I couldn't kind of take that out of my brain because she just looks like Megan from Megan the movie.
She's just holding some weapons there, right?
Yeah, but she looks like a little girl. So me and Mike are in different camps for the new characters for Uncanny X-Men. I like the new characters. You don't love the new characters. I like when you go organically introduce new characters because that's the only way you could kind of get people to care about them. So am I excited for a new character like this to be a villain? I don't know. I'll have to read it, but I'm probably more interested than you are for it.
When it comes to a villain being introduced is not a bad thing. I think that's kind of cool because sometimes we do see the same old villains, and it's good to have a new one. And one is good. Like, I wouldn't mind if with the new Uncanny X-Men, if we got one new character. Like, if it was, for instance, Calico, the only one I can seem to remember because she has the flipping horse. But she seems like a really decent character, like out of all the ones to me. And if we just got her in the book, I think it would have made it much more impactful, right? And it more stand out. And then maybe as the series goes on, then you introduce another one, right? And instead, you introduced 4 at a time. And again, for a lot of readers, when you read Uncanny X-Men, and I said this last week too, when you read Uncanny X-Men, you're expecting Uncanny X-Men. And you now are sharing panel time with all of the other characters. And I know we'll talk about that book later on, but it's kind of frustrating. And, again, Uncanny X-Men is an iconic title, and you expect that type of title, at least a lot of people do anyway. Not everybody is up for, brand new characters like you, Kat. You know what I'm saying? So, I mean, that's what I can say about that.
Yeah, and we'll talk about that issue in particular. So, oh, thank you. I saw you at C2E2 Love from Chicago. Thank you. I was actually was really cool about that event too. Saw a lot of viewers, saw a lot of Kickstarter backers, and just like again, there was like a cool vibe of people who love comics. So
That's
that
cool.
was cool. But yeah, no, I understand that for Uncanny, but then also flip side, I think maybe especially because it's a new era, maybe newer readers are like, oh, because it's new characters, it's like an entry point. They're the POV characters. So I don't know. I'd actually love to, and if you guys are newer readers to X-Men, I'd love to hear you guys' opinion. What would you rather, the Gambit Rogue story or the Calico and the rest of the student story? But let's get into Hellfire Gala. We're already talking about the X-Men. So speaking of the old, Tears the old again, and I never loved the Hellfire Gala. Like, I like the outfits. They're fun, but I never felt like the event ever really did much for the X-Men. And I'm not a huge fan of the Krakoa age in general. So, I mean, I'll pick it up, but it's not something I'm most excited for, but I'm sure the Krakoa fans are.
Where's it at? Like, where's it at now? Is it going to be, is it going to be in Alaska? Is it going to be in the farm? Like, where are they going to have this
farm.
gala? Like last time it was on Krakoa, right?
Mhm.
And the other galas seem to kind of make sense. Like the first one you were introduced, it was like a brand new event. It was a big deal, right? And then you had like bad things happen at these galas, right? So now I just feel like it totally doesn't make sense at all, because it's just the X-Men are all over the place. They're not necessarily working together. And it's just, to me, it just doesn't seem like it makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, I mean, again, I'm sure both of us will pick it up, but I agree with that. This one feels a little bit to the old days, but I'm guessing it made enough sales. They're like, all right, let's do it again because it's a seller for us. So next up is DC news. The only DC news that came out, but I would say the bigger news piece from this week is that there is going to be another alternate universe story, the Immortal Legend Batman. So we already have the Absolute Batman. This is now Immortal Legend Batman, and it's a sci-fi kaiju Power Rangers type Batman story. And this is by the original creative team of Power Rangers, which was Dan Mora and Dan Mora I think actually did Go Power Rangers. So Dan Mora did like a spin-off Power Rangers book, but then Kyle Higgins obviously did the first Mighty Morphin Power Rangers series. So they're both done Power Ranger stuff. And they're working on this. Obviously, Dan Mora, they're really working him. He's on so many titles. I don't know how he personally does it. Oh, and Mac Room, thank you. So Mac Room's co-writing, which they've also done a lot of stuff with Power Rangers and the Radiant Black stuff. Look, as a Kyle Higgins fan, I'm excited. I think it's gonna be a cool series. But as a DC fan, I'm also like, man, it's kind of crazy to see them so not go in their regular universe anymore. They're like only alternate universes. Like all their new stuff feels to be that, and I don't know what that means for the future. I guess.
I mean, it's funny because they do show like sketches in this article on like what Batman would look like, what Robin looks like the symbol, the bat wing or the bat spaceship, right? Because it's like it obviously it takes place centuries from now, and humanity becomes a galactic civilization with capital. I don't know, what does that say? I don't even know what that word says, but it has multiple planets, smaller outposts, and dozen more. So it's like it's a book that really takes place well into the future. So that's basically what's going on there.
I'll say the articles though, because someone mentioned in the comments that Dan Moore is only doing the concepts, and the article makes it so weird. I don't know who's writing, who's doing it. It says during the spotlight, Kyle Higgins and fan favorite art Dan Moore announced the reveal cover concept art, joined by writer Matt Groom and artist Erica DeRosso. But earlier in the article, it says that let me see, there's something about Dan Moore. The Elseworld limited series Immortal Hulk. It features co-writer Matt Groom and art by Dan Mora. So it's like, obviously, I think Dan Mora is only doing the concepts, but the way the article is written, I was like, so is Dan Mora doing the interiors? Honestly, it also sounds like Matt Groom is mostly writing it. I think Kyle Higgins and Dan Mora are like crafting it, but I don't know. It's a little confusing the way the article is written, but I think that's what's going on.
Yeah, I mean, we'll see. Could be fun, but going back to the conversation about like all these, new like DC titles, or I don't think it's necessarily a bad thing, because if it gets people into comic books and it's a good jumping on point for them, I feel like it's good, because when it comes to the absolute titles, you don't need all that history, and it's like
they're just good stories.
Yeah, they're just good stories. They're a good jumping on point, and it's like you have a choice. It's like, okay, do I read the main universe, or can I read the absolute universe and just totally get into it that way? And right now it's like, well, shit, they're pretty good stories, and this is a good point for a lot of people to jump on. So you talk about younger readers or next generation of readers or what have you, and that might be it. Someone might go, oh, look, Superman number 700 and something, whatever. Or do I pick up Absolute Superman issue 6 or 7? So that's the way you look at it.
Especially compared to the Hush stuff. Like if you look at, again, current Batman flagship is Hush. That's like, so you need to know the past to pick this up. And then, like you said, Absolute Batman is so easy to pick up and just be a new reader. I'll say I don't care much about if it's an Elseworld or not. I just want good stories, and I do feel like DC has been releasing good stories. We've talked about it, but I cannot believe how many of the Absolute titles I'm enjoying, like ranging from Green Lantern to Martian Manhunter. Martian Manhunter is never a book I felt like I'd pick up constantly, but I'm like, oh no, I really like that first issue. So I don't care that much. I think we'll see in a year if like Batman after Hush is still stuck in a rut. I think then I kind of question to be like, oh, well, I do want the Batman flagship to be good. So but then you have, again, books like Superman that's like amazing and doing great. So it's very different than the Marvel situation where almost every flagship is not doing the greatest. And then like, well, at least you have Ultimate Spider-Man.
I mean, this is the most DC books I'm probably reading, or I would say probably enjoying. When the New 52 came out, obviously I tried all those books. Not all of them were good, but when you look at DC right now, this is probably the most enjoyment I'm getting out of DC ever.
They also don't release that much either. Like they release just the right amount, I would say.
I think so. Yeah, you're right. Yeah. Where Marvel releases just an abundance of books.
Yeah, and it's maybe a little bit too much at times, especially because they are repeated books too. They're not like, I was gonna say, it's not like Captain Marvel's there, or like I was gonna say, I don't think Spider-Woman has a book either. Like those type of characters where you're like, oh, I want to see a miniseries with them. It's just like, here's 10 Spider-Man titles. Good luck. It's just like, no, I don't really want that either. If you're gonna have a lot of books, I would want it to be like different sides of the Marvel universe, and they don't really do that. We do have a question from Mike Manhattan. Do you guys read EC comics? I personally don't. I've heard they're great, but how many franchises can you get into, especially horror franchises? There's plenty of horror books on the stand. So
yeah, I've read a couple though. I have.
So we also got Jimmy saying hi. Hello.
What's up, Jimmy?
That's all the news. We are gonna jump into. I actually usually have stuff to promote, but I'm in between Kickstarters. I have one that's like ending now, so I won't promote that one. It's like a reprint, but next week I'll have a cool superhero book to talk about. But I think we're going to get into some comics. We're going to talk about the books.
Oh, yeah. So big time book that was released this week. If I can get my screen to change. Yeah, there we go.
I had a lot of indies this week. I obviously had, a good chunk of books in general, but I did have a good amount of indies this week.
Cool. All right. So we'll talk about Transformers issue 19 real quick. That was a pretty decent book. However, it wasn't like every issue that I read from Transformers is always an A plus. This one was like an A for me. I thought that the artwork kind of took me out of it a little bit because it just seemed a little too cartoony for what it is. But it was still a badass comic. I really enjoyed it. We learned about Megatron, kind of him going through these trials, and these characters by the name of the Sharkticons took them hostage and whatnot, and they kept on again putting them through these trials, and we get to see, like, obviously Megatron transform. And if you followed G1 Transformers over the years, Megatron has had two different forms. One, he's been a gun, and in the other form later on, he's been a tank. And so we've never seen Megatron transform in this series before because he's pretty much a brand new character here. And the first thing he transforms into is a tank. And as an original fan, they're kind of like, shit, that sucks, because you want him to transform into the gun. But we do find out that he becomes like a triple changer. So he can like change into his human form, a tank, and a gun. So it was kind of a cool little moment, and it was a fun book, but it wasn't my favorite issue. And we're getting ready for things to wind down here. So
he's leaving.
Yeah,
soon,
20
right?
after 24. Yeah.
What are they up to now?
19. Yeah.
Oh yeah, so it's coming probably after the summer.
Getting close. Yeah. And then we're going to talk about Absolute Batman. This is issue 7. So this is the one where it introduces Mr. Freeze for the first time. And we got a different fill-in artist. I think the fill-in artist was better than the last one. However,
but not as good as the original.
Still not as good as Dakota's artwork in the book. And they just need to get a better fill-in artist when the guy takes a break,
And that's about this arc in general. You kind of felt like it was very fill-in. And again, from the art to, I won't say the storytelling because it was well written. Like, it's cool to see Mr. Freeze. I was most interested in his friend, Matches, because Match, because that was a connection to a character we haven't seen. It's from the days where his dad was shot and killed. So I was like, oh, that's interesting. But they didn't really focus on him that much. It felt like it was very split. I thought this issue was okay, but I don't think it wasn't bad. Just wasn't the strongest of the run. Like, I liked last issue a lot more.
Gotcha. Yeah, I mean, it was interesting because I like this element of Mr. Freeze, right? And I liked his like, hey, let me touch you, I can drain your body, I could kill you this way type of thing. And I did like the story element of it as well. Matches is right. That's his name. It's a character that's been around him for Batman and for a long time. We just don't see him very often. And the way he died was so interesting. I was like, oh, dang. I'm like, that's pretty creepy. But yeah, it was a good story. And I'm just looking forward to more. I just wish, like, again, it almost gives me that element of like the Incredible Hulk, right? It's like you want the regular artist on the book, and then you get these fill-in artists that are not even comparable. It just makes the artwork jarring, and it's frustrating to see that. But the story is good. I like it. All right, so now let's talk about the main topic, and that is the Amazing Spider-Man issue 1. Was it a one and done for you guys? Like, or did you like it and you're like, okay, I was going to drop it, but now, there's enough story here where it can continue to grow and maybe get better. Did you like the artwork? Like, there's all these different things that were going on in this book, right? So
maybe a little bit too much at times. No, I liked it for that. Yeah, there's potential. But also, I've been pushed and pulled a little bit with Amazing Spider-Man, especially with their issue 1s, where it's like, oh man, this could be so good. And then obviously it does what it does. I'll say there was nothing there that was like, wow, I can't wait for issue 2. Like, I can't compare it to the Nick Spencer run that started out really, really strong. I like Nick Spencer's run for probably a whole year before we're like, oh man, Kindred is going for too long. But I actually really like the beginning of that run, that first issue in particular, because you do get that Kindred reveal, and there was good character moments with obviously MJ and Peter, and you had J. Jonah Jameson, and it just felt classic but also new. And I didn't feel that here. It felt very much like a remnant of that old series, but it felt like a better remnant of that old series. Like, there was interesting, there's obviously the villain, and then you get little teases with where is Norman going. You get the girlfriend, but I that was probably, believe it or not, the least interested I am was with the issue. You get some emotional moments between Rhino and Peter. Like, there's some like better moments there, but if this is the best of the best Amazing Spider-Man could be, it was just okay. Like, it has promise, but I also wasn't blown away by it. So
Right.
it's a weird middle ground.
It's kind of interesting because it was a very, I would say, typical issue 1
Sure.
for a restart. It's like, oh, here we go. Here's Peter. He's going to try to get a job. He gets a job. You get introduced to the middle school friend.
That was interesting. The middle school friend, probably
right,
the
and
best
it's
part.
a new character, which is good. It's another connection. The girlfriend moment is just kind of weird. Like, I don't know why
it's like, you're on probation. Why are you together?
Yeah, it's dumb. It's dumb, and it's like you don't get even a mention of Mary Jane in this comic book. You don't get Black Cat in this comic book at all. And that's okay. Like, that's fine.
But make your other supporting characters more interesting if you don't have them. Like Shay, like, she can be a cool character, I'm sure. She works at this like a sane asylum, and you do nothing with it. And then again, like you said, I actually forgot about the middle school character. Like, he has potential because it's like, oh, this is a character we've never seen. It's from Peter's past. Is he good? Is he bad? Like, he was probably the most interesting thing to me.
Right. Yeah. And then he gets a job, and then, right away it's just like, oh, look, I have to be Spider-Man. And it's like, this is all this stuff that you've known. But once you get past that, like that introductory part of the story, I did feel like it did pick up, because Rhino experiencing a heart attack, obviously something's going on with him. It creates that mystery. You get the Hobgoblin that's reintroduced in here, but then there's a shadowy like character behind him that looks like he's pulling the strings. Like, is that his psyche talking to him? Is that something else? Like, what's going on there? So there was a lot of different like little mystery elements. You got the Norman story. Like, okay, is he going to be a good guy? Is this going to lead to his demise? Like, what's going to happen there? And then obviously you get introduced to the brand new villain, Hellgate, which obviously we don't know anything about him. Is he going to make a significant impact in the story, or is he just the character to throw in there for now as a minor story with the overarching story that's going on?
I'll say his look doesn't feel interesting to me. It doesn't really jump off the page. I'm like, oh yeah, he's kind of, it does remind me of the last villains who were also just felt very minor. But again, maybe it'll surprise us. Maybe it's one of those things where I'm like, obviously I want to be surprised. I want to like it, but it's the same creative team we've been having. So it's so hard to be like, no, this is going to be better. Cause it's just like, well, I've kind of already done this. Like, if it was a new writer, I think I'd be a little bit more excited, because be like, oh, there's promise. And I haven't seen what this person has done. But yeah, with this, it's just like, I've already seen it, and I wasn't very impressed already.
Yeah. What'd you think about the Norman thing? Did it do anything for you?
It was interesting because I like Norman's arc. I think he probably was one of the better aspects of last run. But then also, like, are you actually going to do anything with it? There wasn't that much on the page for it. And I think that was actually one of my criticisms, that they were trying to focus on too much in this issue, where it didn't really feel like I had a focal point, and I didn't know what to get excited for, because you showed too little of everything.
Yeah. What did you think about the art when it came to Pepe Larraz's art?
I think it was better than what we've been getting, but I don't think it's his strongest. I thought there was parts that felt rushed.
Now, we talk about Peter Parker's job, right? And the whole thing is about, like, he's so smart. Why can't he get a job? Like, why can't he hold a job? And obviously it's because he's Spider-Man. That's the biggest thing, right? And so why doesn't, and this came to my head the other day, and I'm like, why can't Peter work for himself? Fuck all the other jobs. He can, with
Especially
today's day and age,
2025. Yeah.
right? And being that comics take place in a modern day, he could literally be his own photographer, do his own stuff. He could upload it to YouTube.
Instagram.
He could do it to anything, and he can make money that way. And that would be his own job.
And
And
that'd be
because
a really cool story too. And obviously, there's like
right,
this fame aspect but that could be an interesting explore. And let's say you don't want Spider-Man to be famous. Maybe you don't want Peter Parker to be famous. Let's say you don't make him his own employee. What happened to like Lyft and Uber, like things like that, that is so like modern to our age, that would be kind of a fun Spider-Man story. Like I kind of want to see Spider-Man as a Lyft driver for like an issue. Like at least that's something different. Like this is all the same sciencey stuff, and I get like, and obviously we are Spider-Man fans. Maybe there's other Spider-Man fans. Like I want to see sciencey Peter Parker, but every single time he gets these jobs, he's never even that sciencey. They just kind of throw
right.
him in there and then he leaves.
I mean, the best job that I felt he had was when Dan Slott had him work at Horizon Labs, because he had his own office. He could go and leave and go as he pleased. So there was never that danger of him being fired. But everywhere else, it's kind of like, oh, yeah, I got his job. And then all of a sudden something happens and he's missing a deadline or whatever it is. That's why I came up with this thing about him being like a YouTuber.
No, I like that. Yeah.
Something like that. Because that's like, it's like what he used to do, for the Daily Bugle, but it's a modern version of it, and I think that would be freaking cool. Yeah, it'd be cool. Taking pictures of himself, get a fucking GoPro. He can sit there and do all kinds of stuff. And then people would be like, whoa, how does this guy get this, thing? Maybe it's too obvious. I don't know. But people never mentioned it before when he was a photographer of the Daily Bugle, thinking that he could be Spider-Man.
I realize they're scared of going too modern with these books, because like we even talked about it like before the Shay stuff. Like why does Peter go in the dating apps, right? But then we read that. I don't know if you read the Radiant Black issue, but there's that recent Radiant Black issue, and it's him going through the dating apps and
Right.
like being Radiant Black. It's like, oh, that's relatable, that's fun, that's modern. And then same thing here. It's like, social media is a thing. You being your own boss is a thing. Like creating your own business. Like so many people have done it, especially in the modern age and with resources. So like, why not do something different? It's not like it's not changing the character. You're just like making it more modern. So
Yeah.
I agree. Like I'm like this job thing. It just didn't interest me. It feels so. But I like the guy. Like I like the middle school friends. I'm like, oh, at least that's different, and there's something cool about that.
Yeah,
But
definitely like that aspect of it. But the job thing has been done to death. And we just know that he can't hold a job like a normal 9 to 5 job. And in modern worlds, there are so many people that don't go to an office anymore, or don't go to a job. There's a lot of jobs that you work from at home. So
yeah,
it's like,
that
it just
too.
doesn't make sense.
It's strange, and I want them to take more risks with Spider-Man, but it just seems like it's the one character they not the one. There's a lot of characters. I feel like they're not taking risks anymore, and I think that's I would love to see the differences of DC and Marvel right now with their sales, because I think that's one of the big problems with Marvel right now is that when's the last headline we had with Marvel? Like what's going on? Like I want to see something fun and not just deaths. Oh, Silver Surfer's dying. Like no, let's get. Like this is a great book and every issue's killing it. Like let's have more Ultimate Spider-Mans. Like let's just tell good stories.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I agree. So listen, it's always going to be on my pull list for me. That's just my thing. It's even if I didn't even collect comic books anymore, if that would still be the one book I would always read in my entire life would be Spider-Man, because
Yeah.
it's just the character is that important to me, whether it's good or bad. And it's interesting to see how different writers write the character. And for me, it's just good conversation, and that's what, again, you can say that about all comic books. Like that's what makes this so much fun,
Yeah. Again, we'll dog on Spider-Man, but we'll never drop it. That's why it's fun. We were looking forward to this podcast mostly because of Amazing Spider-Man issue 1. It's cool talk back and forth about it and see where things go. We do have a question from Bronze Page Comics. Hey guys, what is the first omnibus that you bought? I actually think mine was Saga. I think to catch up with it, I feel like that was probably my first one because they're so hard to read. I tend not to read. I tend not to buy them very often.
I'm trying to remember here. I think it was this 90s one, or no, it's the Todd McFarlane Amazing Spider-Man run that I have right here actually, because my comic shop was selling it I think on sale for like $40, and it's like $100 on the, because it had like a bent corner like in the very top, and with the dust jacket on it, you don't even notice it. And so I was like, oh yeah, I'll buy this because it's like my favorite Spider-Man run ever. And so I think that was the first one that I ever bought.
Yeah, I think that's all the questions I see now. So I think we'll move on unless there's more Spider-Man stuff. But I think we talked about it and we'll see where it goes. We'll keep talking about Spider-Man for sure.
Absolutely. All right. So with that being said, what was your number 5 then?
Mine was, let me double check. I think it was Phantom Road. Yeah, it's Phantom Road issue 11. It returned. This issue wasn't as, I think, strong as some of the previous ones because it doesn't follow the main character, but follows the main character, one of the main character's fathers.
Yeah.
So we get to see his past, and obviously that's going to be connected to the overall plot. But you can kind of tell they're like sidestepping and really, we're kind of buying time a little bit. But I like the vibe of this book, and I enjoy that every issue you do kind of feel like you're learning something. So even if it's not the main characters, I still have a good time with the book.
Yeah, I hope obviously we get back to that the main characters there. It looks like they're still dealing with that past, right?
Mm-hmm.
And the tough thing that I looked at it as a new reader point of view, and I'm like, man, new readers are not going to know what the hell is going on in this comic.
No,
you're going to have to read a trade to like understand what's happening here, So I did like it as the reader that started off the series, and it's funny how I remembered everything that happened after all this time.
It's not that complicated of a series, so I think that helps too.
It really isn't. But it's cool how things did start to pick up, how they started with this mystery and everything. So I don't know. I'm looking forward to the next issue, but I couldn't put it in my top 5 just because of that new reader friendly aspect of it. Even like, say if we didn't remember, I was like, who's to say, like, we read so many books, we could have easily just forgot and been like, what the fuck's going on? And you could have been just easily like, well, I'm not going to read this anymore.
I'll say because they jumped into a different timeline, it was helpful because it's just like it does kind of pick up in that way. So obviously, like if you don't remember things, you might like pick up on things along the way. Is a new reader friendly in the way that, does this excite you for the story? No, like you have to be reading the story before, but I think it was a good place to kind of jump you in for sure. We do have a question from Tevia. Why is Amazing Spider-Man back on the pull list? Well, for us personally, it's just because we're never going to drop Spider-Man. I think for other people, I think it's a little bit better than it was. And I think there's some plot threads you might be interested in.
Yeah.
But I think it depends on how much you like Spider-Man. If you're like, oh, I'm not usually into Spider-Man, will this get me into it? No, like don't pick it up. But if you just trying to get Spider-Man again, like go ahead, I guess. Honestly, it's probably just for people that are dedicated to Spider-Man, if I'm being honest.
I mean, but I agree. I feel like that, again, there's going to be a Spider-Man run where certain people have never read Spider-Man, and that could be their jumping on point. And so
that's a good jumping on point.
Right, or jumping on point. And I agree with Kat. I feel like this story already is better than 8 Deaths of Spider-Man. And 8 Deaths of Spider-Man was created, don't forget, because it was an event tie-in, because it had to deal with Doctor Doom. So that's why that story existed. Okay. So now we get Joe Kelly being able to tell a story that maybe he wants to truly tell, at least within editorial,
within reason.
within reason. And so it seems like there's potential here. you can't really judge it only based off of one issue, but you can see little, seeds being planted. So we'll see what happens with it. But I think it is a decent time to put it on your pull list right now if you want to know what's going on.
Hobgoblin brought up a good point. Itsy Bitsy working with Kingsley seems odd. Hellgate gives Ares vibes. I completely forgot that Hobgoblin had that like little 1 or 2 pages. That's what I meant by like there was like a lot of little things that could have been really interesting that they kind of just had like 1 or 2 pages for.
Yeah, I like the Hobgoblin thing. Maybe like again, there was that black shadowy character that was talking, and I don't know what that was. And so it was very interesting. And seeing Hobgoblin in there was cool because again, that's classic Spider-Man. And that's kind of like certain things I do want to see. Like Hellgate, okay, we'll see what that dude is about. But I do like some characters that we haven't seen in a very long time, like Hobgoblin, right?
Yeah, it's been a while, and maybe some people don't even know about Hobgoblin. There's especially if you're a newer reader of Spider-Man. This is a cool way to learn more about classic Spider-Man villains. Spider-Man's like pizza, even when it's not great, it's still worth a slice. Yeah, it's been dollar pizza for a while, or frozen pizza.
It's like cafeteria pizza so much, right? All right, my number 5. So my number 5 was, what was it? Storm issue 7.
You've been liking that one.
Yeah, I had a tough time though deciding like what would be my top 5. I think I had 7 books that could have easily been in the top 5. But I decided to go with Storm because I just want people to know that that book it's fun. It's good. There's this overpowered Storm character that's in the book that has a cosmic powers, and she meets up with Iron Man in this comic, and Iron Man sends her on a mission to go find a guy that is doing some kind of research or something with like super soldier serum, and the guy winds up getting eaten by this gigantic anaconda snake, right? And so they like Storm like accidentally disintegrates this snake because she was being attacked, but the body was inside, I guess, with the super soldier serum or something like that. Oh, it was insane. And also there's these weird, and we saw an article in it in a while back and we discussed it here, but there was these other cosmic like beings that Storm was doing battle against as well. And that was interesting. And this book had a reference with Silver Surfer Black in it, right? Obviously from Donny Cates. And it also had the Black Winter in there, also from Donny Cates. So there are things in here that's like, oh, wow, they're kind of going back to some of that stuff from when Donny Cates was writing Thor. So I'm very curious to see where this book goes. The artwork is absolutely gorgeous. And this is very easily a book that could be under the radar because there's so many, again, Marvel books, so many mutant books, so many solo series. And this is one that could get lost in the shuffle. And I'm happy I picked it up. And it's been good for me. All right. So let's see. Where are we at now?
We're on number. We're on the after issue 5.
Let's talk about Vatican City. What did you think of that?
Wow, the art was really out there for me. Like the story was like your plain old vampire story. It's like, okay, vampires are attacking. It happened really quickly. And then the idea of Vatican City is actually interesting. That it's like, okay, it's this religious place, so vampires can't go in it. There's not much of a focal character. Like I said, the art really brought it down for me. I didn't actually like this because of it.
Yeah, it was kind of the same with me. The main character's name was Guido. He was like trying to be like part of the military or the police or something like that. And it was all right story. It's a very simplistic plot. You get the vampires that took over the world and now they go to Vatican City and they try to unbury their queen. And that's where their queen is at. And so we'll see what happens. I'm going to continue reading it. It's just, I think it's only like 3 issues or something like that. And, but it's just, I wanted more of a main character. I wanted to see more of the fall of Earth. And
Yeah, that was
that's what I
quick.
like about apocalyptic books is seeing the world fall. And you don't really get to see that. And that was kind of frustrating. But we'll see what happens with it.
Yeah, no, I'll probably not pick up the next issue, but you'll have to let me know how it goes. But I agree, like I want to see more of like the actual how did vampires come to be and do this thing. But
Right, exactly. It was like in 1 hour we took over here, in 2 hours we took over there, in 3 hours we took
yeah.
over 4 states, and now okay. Then all of a sudden we have a million vampires in the Vatican City, and it's like, okay, like that's it. And that's how we progress the story very quickly. Let's talk about Aquaman issue 4. So this issue we see Aquaman who was captured by the who I forget her name. She's like the
She's like the
former,
mermaid from Superman you're talking about,
yeah,
right?
right.
Yeah,
And she was like the
not with the
former
L.
girlfriend, right? And then we find out that he's trying to figure out what's going on with his city, what happened to Mira, and he escapes. He breaks out and he winds up he winds up getting this weapon, this trident or sword that was forged for him, and he starts kicking ass. And that's pretty much what the issue is. I mean, I liked it. It's fun. I think Jeremy Adams does a pretty good job with it.
Yeah, I think it's obviously great for Aquaman fans, but also someone who's not like the hugest Aquaman person. I'm enjoying it. I like the Superman connection. I was a little thrown off by the Mara entrance because the intro, because I thought Mara was gonna be such a big part of the issue, and then they kind of don't do anything with it. So it didn't make my top 5, but I still like the series. I want to see where it goes. I think it's a very solid Aquaman title for someone who doesn't love Aquaman.
Yeah, I agree. It's again, I struggled if this was going to be in my top 5. I wasn't
Mm.
sure, but this is I don't give Aquaman that much of a chance, and this is something that I don't see myself dropping anytime soon. So I'm excited to continue to read it. All right, and now let's go on my favorite title, the Uncanny X-Men. This is issue 13. So, yep, have fun talking about it.
So I think what's so funny about this is the reason I didn't love this issue is because I thought they focused not on the kids enough. Like the Gambit stuff really like it bored me. And then I was like, oh, I kind of want to see more of the kids. And then you didn't really see that. I thought it was so like scattered this issue. And I was really bored by the Gambit stuff.
And this is
And it,
my problem with having too
mm,
many characters because you're trying to focus on too many different things, right? You're going back to the very first issue with the whole dragon situation,
sure.
right? And it's just like, okay, all we show is Gambit and he's dealing with this dragon thing, right? And then you deal with the kids and they go down beneath the farm where there's something much darker, deeper secrets going on in there. Kind of reminded me of Children of the Vault. That's what that reminded me of right there. And it's like, okay, well, that's great. So now what? Like I don't even know. Like I feel like I don't even care. Like I don't find these characters interesting. I just don't. They just talk in circles to me. I don't know what it is. And
Do you
I
think
don't
it's
see any X-Men. I don't see you see Gambit, you see Rogue sleeping, there's no Wolverine, there's no Jubilee, and
well, I
there's no
think Gambit
Nightcrawler.
Gambit had big moments in this issue though,
Yeah,
like the
Gambit's
Savage
the only one.
Land. Yeah. Yeah. I'll say that. Are you going to drop Uncanny or are you gonna
Oh,
stick
no,
with
I
it?
really am on the fence. I don't
Mhm.
want to, but I'm just hating the book right now. Like I this is not X-Men to me. Like, I get you introduce characters. We've seen mutants get introduced through the Uncanny X-Men for years. For years. And I've grown to like those characters, right? I get what you're saying about throwing them into the book and getting to learn them. Like, and I get that. I get developing characters, and maybe that's a way to get to know them. But I think with all the other characters in here, I think it's just such a big struggle to balance them all, and you don't get to see enough of the other characters that you do like,
Yeah, but
And
then there's like
so
20 X-Men titles. I think that's where if this is the only X-Men title out there, I'd be like, yeah, no, that sucks. But if you want your more classic X-Men book, you can read X-Men.
you
I
can
would say
read
that
X Men,
yeah.
yeah.
Which
Yeah.
honestly is something I don't love because I feel like it is kind of regurgitation of things we've seen. And I get a little bored with their interactions. So this feels a little fresher and new to me. Yeah, no, I also just like Gail Simone's style of writing a lot usually, and I love Dave Marquez's art, and a lot of times he is on the book, so that's something that's consistent as
Yeah.
well. I don't love the art for X-Men, but then that's the good thing. So if you don't love this style, go read X-Men. If you don't
Right.
love X-Men, go read this. And that's what I've been liking about this new era of X-Men in general is that there's a lot of books, but they seem to have a little bit more purpose than normal. Again, Storm is a great example of a solo series that's just doing its thing. For me, Exceptional X-Men's is like a little side of the X-Men that you normally don't get to see. So I like this era of X-Men a lot more because I think there's just more choices and
Right.
of what you could decide what you like or you don't like.
It's tough because I do like the action in X-Men, but I don't like necessarily Ryan Stegman's artwork doesn't work in that book.
No, I agree. Yeah.
I think the other artist that's on it actually does a better job. And I don't like the characters as much in that X-Men book. So,
Mhm.
like, I'm not the biggest Cyclops fan in that book. I'm not the biggest Beast fan. I hate Magneto in that book because he doesn't do anything except sit in a chair. And then it's like, okay, Juggernaut, I don't think he should be an X-Men. He's, it just, there's action in that book, but just what's going on in it is just not that great either. So I love the X-Men in Uncanny and I like the artwork in Uncanny, but I don't see enough of the characters that I want to see. So it's like it's like you like seeing those younger and new characters,
Mhm.
but I want to see the older characters. So there's got to be some kind of a balance. And I feel like the heavy shift has been on these new characters more than the older characters. That's the way I look at it.
I think this issue tried to balance it more, but I don't think it worked because of that. I think it was just like, yeah, pick a lane for an arc, I would say. Like if you want to do a Gambit arc, do a Gambit arc. And I think maybe that's what's a little lopsided about this book is that they try to do it in every issue. And I much rather just like have different characters focused in different arcs. I think that,
Yeah,
it's
that would be
something that
better.
has done in the past. Yeah. I mean,
Yeah,
maybe they will do that. We'll see.
focus one arc with Calico or focus one
Mm.
arc with that Dreamwave character or whatever it is. And then we got introduced. Who is the character at the beginning of the book? Who was that? The woman with the hat that was getting off the
Oh, I
train?
think she's in the past of like Gambit's. I thought was because I think it's New Orleans. I think she's from. So I thought it was maybe someone from Gambit's past. I thought, but I don't know. It looked like New
See?
Orleans to me.
See, it's just another thing. And
Yeah.
that's it's frustrating. So I don't know. I might hold on to it for now, but it's just one of those things that it's just like I just wish there was more balance. And I think that's my biggest issue with it. It says she has a variant cover in the next issue.
Yes, I shall be a bigger character next issue.
All right. So let's go on. What's your number 4?
Mine's Green Lantern Corps. I like this book. I like Lantern a bit more because these are, John Stewart's not my Green Lantern, but I'm enjoying his interactions with Hawkgirl. Like, obviously, it's a very Justice League animated series. And what I love about this series is how connected it is. Like, you have to kind of read this book to read Green Lantern and vice versa because you obviously have the Sorrow Lantern. And I like that about DC or Marvel Universe. I like we talked about X-Men just now. A lot of those books don't really feel very connected. This, like, you have to read both series to kind of get what's going on. And obviously it's the same writer writing both. But it's not my favorite out of all of them. I think artwork could be a little stronger, but I'm enjoying the ride for the most part.
I like Green Lantern Corps. I think it's pretty badass. I like just that whole story of what's going on with the Red Lanterns, like what their story was about. Then the whole story with like Hawkwoman and just like how the planet became this like freaking god. Like that thing was insane. I was like that 1-page spread where this big gold hawk comes out of it, and it was awesome. I so loved it. It was like something out of a movie, right? And then you still got the whole Sorrow Lantern that's involved in the
Mhm.
whole situation as well. So there's a lot of different elements there, but for right now, they put those Red Lanterns on ice.
That was
And
interesting.
so they
Yeah.
can figure out how to like rebuild a power battery for them, So I thought that was a cool story, man. Really good. So yeah, that was awesome. So that was your number 4.
Yeah.
All right. So my number 4 was The Moon is Following Us, issue 8.
And that's
So
ending soon.
I forgot 12, maybe I want to say. So just another good issue as we focused of our 2 main characters, Sam and Duncan, obviously trying to save the daughter. They've been betrayed by the guy that they thought was the good guy, right? And now they're being aided by Penny's nightmares to save the day. We found out something super dark in the last issue with Duncan, the father, that he was abused, I think sexually, by I think he was his uncle. And you kind of got to see his nightmare at the end of the last issue, last page. And as the reader, that, right? And so he's kind of traumatized by this whole situation throughout this entire issue. He's like, his head is not in the game because, again, this entered his mind because something in this world, I think, entered it, or it's one of the bad guys or whatever it is. But he can't fight. He's just completely out of it. And so something really bad happens to him at the end of this issue. And it was kind of sad, but we'll see what happens. There was a good moment. You got to see Penny's unicorn in there that she created when she was a younger girl. But overall, it was a good issue. It's always very emotional. So you look at that emotional impact in this comic that Daniel Warren Johnson always does in his comics. That end of that last issue and at the end of this issue, that's where it's at, man. That's where it hits you really, really hard. So I got to get a thing of water because my voice is going on me. So I'll be right back.
Let's see. We got the neighborhood and Merc saying hi. I'll watch the replay during my flight to LA in the morning. Hopefully it's not too long of a flight for you, but long enough for you to watch the podcast. We got Tevia, Green Lantern Corps is fun. It's also, we could even talk about the next book we're probably going to talk about when Mike returns is either Ultimates or Geiger. So we'll see what Mike wants to talk about. Those are 2 that you really like. So from the list, what do you want to talk about first? Geiger or Ultimates?
You can talk about Spider-Gwen first.
Okay. Yes, yeah. Spider-Gwen. So this is an interesting book because all of the ideas that are coming about, like her going to space, just feels so jump the shark to me. But the way it's written is good. Like I like how Stephanie Phillips writes things. I just hate what's going on. Like I don't like that she's going to space. I don't like that she's obviously not in her world. But it's a well-written book, and that's why I'm honestly even enjoying it a little bit. I'm like, I shouldn't be liking this, but I'm enjoying her interaction with Loki. She has the stupid cosmic cube in her, and somehow that's still working. Like, I don't get it, but somehow Stephanie Phillips is doing it. And I'm glad she's trying with something that's a little difficult to write through.
She can write fun books, though.
Yeah.
Like I read her Captain America Cap Wolf book most recently. That was a fun book. Like,
no, she's a good writer.
It's kind of like, it's one of those books where it's like it's one of those things where you almost can't take her writing too seriously. It's like, does that make any sense? Like, it's just like, if you're just looking for a fun comic book to read, it's almost like go read like almost like a Stephanie Phillips book, because a lot of her books tend to be that way. There's some books that I really like from her, and then there's some that not so much. You know what I'm saying? So it just looks like this is kind of like a little bit of a wild ride.
Yeah, and I'll say the only thing that drags it down a little bit is the art is really dark. Like, because like you're saying, it's like a quirky story that she's like the cosmic cube and she has powers for it and she's teaming up with Loki. That should be like a little more cartoonier, and it's a very dark art style, which I don't think fits very well. I'll say if you like Spider-Gwen, you love Spider-Gwen, pick it up because it's one of the better Spider-Gwen titles. But if you're like, oh, I've always wanted to get into Spider-Gwen, I don't get it. Like, I don't think this is the book to pick up. I think there's other ones that are better Spider-Gwen books. But, you know, it's been a while since we've had a decent Spider-Gwen book. I honestly really liked Melissa Flores's Spider-Gwen Smash book, the one that her, like, she's going on tour and stuff like that. That was probably the best Spider-Gwen book recently. But this is like it's a good enough counterpart.
Gotcha. All right. So now we'll talk about the Ultimates issue 11. First, not too much to say about this. This was my least favorite issue out of the whole run so far.
Wow.
Because it focused on Thor and Sif, and it was all in like Asgard. And the way it was told, you would say that maybe if you love Thor, this is very interesting, maybe good storytelling, but it was like all like in a poem. Jesus Christ. It was a poem, right? I'm thinking of like Thor at the same time, and it became a poem. But yeah, it was like the way a poem was say. It was like it rhymed and all this weird stuff. And I don't know. I just couldn't get into it. It obviously had to do a little bit with the plot, of what was going on, but I don't know. It's just not my thing. I'm not a big Thor guy, so it was just my least favorite issue of the series. So not too much to say about that one. And then Geiger, issue 13 is probably one of my favorite books. I would say top 5. It just delivers each and every month it comes out. The artwork in here by Gary Frank is phenomenal. We can get to continue this story with Geiger and him maybe possibly being cured. They found this place to live, and they found the glowing woman, and she's trying to cure him, but she's not out to what she's supposed to be, right? There's something hidden. There's a secret behind her. You get the military going after them in this issue. And then there is some heartfelt moments in this book, again, with the whole family dynamic in here too, and that was really good. And you get to see Tyreek, who is Geiger, actually kind of unloads his feelings to Joe, who's the robot in this book. It's just overall, Kat has no idea what I'm talking about, but this is just a really good book. It's not just some freaking guy that's glowing that beats the shit out of people. At first it may seem that way, but as the story is developed, it's developed this supporting cast, it's developed heart, it's developed this interesting plot, and it delivers every single month. So definitely always a recommend.
Yeah, I'm not surprised Jeff Johns is doing well with his
with
his independent comics.
I mean, think about it. If DC was, sat there and said, "Oh, Mr. Johns, you want to come up with your own character and make it a DC character?" Yeah, he could have had it. You know what I'm saying? I mean,
he could have, but I think he'd be like, money is here. I think making his own creations, he's making a lot more money doing that.
That's true. That's true. All right. So now let's see. We're going to talk about our number 3. So what was your number 3?
Mine was Spider-Gwen. So we already talked about it.
Okay. And my number 3 was Green Lantern Corps. So we already talked about that one. All right. Then we move on to, let's see, Batman and Robin. This is issue 20. Interesting story. We see Batman, who's doing battle against this character by the name of Memento. He almost has like similar powers to like Scarecrow, where it's like he makes Batman like trip, right? He doesn't know where he's at, wherever it is. And then somehow he goes back to the mansion, and Damian's been captured, and he's trying to find any clues of where Damian could be. And he finds a journal or a comic book, actually. And this goes back to Joshua Williamson's run on how Damian likes to write his own stories, right? And draw his own manga and all this stuff. So he found this comic book that Damian drew and wrote of his own Batman and Robin series. But I think he called it Robin and Batman. I think that's what he called it.
That one's coming out too.
He got all these like clues of just, what his son thinks of him. And it was very, very heartfelt. It was a decent title. I'm still trying to get the ins and outs of this book because I fell off of it and now I jump back on it. But it was pretty solid, and it was cool to see this comic book because it's drawn that way in the book when you're reading it. So it's like you're reading a comic within a comic. So it was pretty inventive that way. I liked it.
I was gonna say I was surprised that you were still reading that book, but it seems like it went, it's getting a little better too.
Yeah, I dropped it and then I picked it back up again.
Sometimes something just calls for you.
Yeah, yep. All right. Let's move on to Golden Rage, Mother Knows Best. This is issue 1. I read that entire first volume.
The whole first book?
Yeah, there was a first volume of this.
Oh, I didn't even know. I
read it was 5 issues, and it came out, I think it was like last year or something like that.
I'll say as someone who did not know that, I read this issue and it was very new reader friendly. I was like, oh, I didn't even know there was a first one.
Yeah.
I liked it. I thought it was actually pretty good. I enjoyed seeing like these women outcasted and like seeing their lives together. And I thought it was a good cliffhanger with the baby. It gave me enough to want to read a second issue, and I like the art.
I'm not reading the next issue. I didn't.
Oh no.
I didn't like the first volume, but I decided to give the second one a try. And it's just like, okay, like I get it. You're stuck on this island and you've been cast away, and you felt like they did this because you're not productive anymore, and then you get this baby dropped on your lap, and now it's like, what do you do? So like in that aspect, it's like, okay. And it's a story about old people being forgotten.
The themes. Yeah.
And it's sad, right? Like I get it. I totally get it. Like it is a sad thing because a lot of people, a lot older people are forgotten, and they're cast away. And so you're doing it in a comic style where you're casting them away in an island. Like I get that. But I don't want to read that. That's just, I don't want to. That's, again, it's sad to me. And then it's like, they're talking about menopause and they're talking about twisting their ankles and they're falling on their knees and all that stuff. And I'm like, I don't want to read a book where it's like, okay, in 25 years, I'm going to be 75 years old and I don't want to get there. I don't want to read about that. So
no, that's understandable. Sometimes the comics are escapism. So I liked it because I did enjoy those themes. I think that if you look at the flip side, it was like empowering women, doing that. And I thought it was interesting from the female point of view to kind of see that, because like it wasn't just the idea of like elderly is shipped off, but it's also the idea that are women only good to be mothers, and then like you have this kid that is dumped on you. I don't know. I just thought it was interesting. Again, I never read the first one, so maybe like you also might have felt tired after like reading it for 5 issues. I only read the first issue, and I was like, no, I like it. I think it's interesting. I thought the art was good, and also, if I'm being honest about the whole week, it was kind of a weaker week for me. Like I liked it
a little bit, yeah.
So for like, something that was a weaker week, it was just like I had a fun time with it. Maybe if it was like that 30 issue week, it would have been more in the middle of my pile. But I think it stood out against some of the other ones this week for me.
Right. Totally get that. All right. So now let's move on to number 2. What was your number 2?
Mine was the Golden Rage. So we already talked about
it. My number 2 was Transformers. So we definitely talked about that one, which leads us to our number 1 comic. And mine was Geiger issue 13. There was no comparison in my mind. Like even Transformers was good. But Geiger is just next level. And when you get Gary Frank on art, it's just top notch for me, man. So good.
Mine is Jump Scare issue 2. I really like this book.
I struggled with that being in the top 5 for me this time. I really did.
What I liked is that it just kind of sucks you in. Like you understand, like it's only issue 2, and I feel like I know this whole world. I understand her relationship with her family. I also just like have a good time with her with these odd, horror movie props. And I was actually talking to somebody that talked to Cullen Bunn during C2E2, or had talked or heard something about the comic, and supposedly a lot of them are just like fake movies. I'm like, it's so interesting because they do sound like Z-list movies. Like, oh yeah, this probably is a movie that exists. So I thought that was fun, and I like what they're doing with the sister. Like, you really don't know she's gonna want to save her sister or not, and they build that tension well. The art is good. As a horror movie fan, but especially a slasher movie fan, I like it, but a lot. But also, what I think is so cool about the comic medium is that it also feels like a superhero book. It's like this weird balance
Yeah.
of like, you like slashers, great. Do you like superheroes? Great. You're gonna love this book, and it just
Yeah.
feels like a love letter to both. And as a movie fan, and again, like a slasher fan in particular, I'm having a good time with it.
Yeah, I do. I agree with you 100%. I mean, I like this book, and I personally think it's one of Colin Bunn's best books. Like,
Yeah, yeah.
I think it's a great and original idea. I like how the sister doesn't take shit from the parents, right? She's just like, you only want me here to save my sister, and you could care less about me. So, and I really like that part of the story, right? And then
And
you
the
get to learn.
folded picture, like where
Yeah.
it's like
Oh my
I thought that
God.
was
I was like,
cool.
how
Yeah.
rude is that? That is horrible. And then it's just like, and then you get to see like a little bit of the lore and how creepy that is.
Mhm.
And then you get to see the main villain. His name is Grindhouse. I'm like, Grindhouse. I'm like, this sounds like a porn movie or a
Yeah.
strip club or something like that. I'm like, that's so weird.
Well, horror movies, there's a genre called grindhouse movies. So I think that they're
Maybe
probably,
that's what it was.
yeah, they're
Yeah.
probably referencing that. From what I know, I don't know much about grindhouse movies, but I think they're just like kind of like Saw movies. They're like very, very gruesome and very like
Oh,
kind of
okay.
C-list. I believe Quentin Tarantino, he did like vignettes of like, there's this feature that he has of like 3 vignettes, and I'm pretty sure there's a movie called like Grindhouse or something. So
Gotcha.
but yeah, it's a genre within the horror stuff.
Yeah, the scene in the convenience store was just fun. Like, I like that. Her like slicing the dude's freaking hands off and stuff like that. It just overall, it's just a good book. It's fun, it's different. I like the horror element because I'm a horror fan. And I'm curious to see where they're gonna go. How many issues is this?
I don't know, actually. I'm guessing it's a mini series, but I
I
don't
don't
actually
see
know.
it lasting forever.
Yeah.
If I had to guess, I would say 6, but I could be completely off on that.
I also have the answer for Grindhouse. So, is an action house is an American term for theater that mainly shows low budget horror, splatter, or exploitative films for adults. So it's just like they showed like really cheap films that were also sexualized. So that's cool. Interesting history there. And I did look up the Quentin Tarantino movie. It's just called Grindhouse. So that's cool. But yeah, I don't. Let me see if it's on Dark Horse's website for how
You
long
might
this
want to look
is.
on League of Comic Geeks too. It
They
might
have it too.
show you, like, if you do a search, it might come up at like
It's 4 issues.
Yeah, 4 issues. Okay.
That
So
makes
it's a
sense.
small little
Yeah.
story.
Which I
But
think is good for this. It should be tight, when it goes on
right.
for too long, I don't, sometimes it goes too much. And guess what? If this is great, you might get a sequel, and then you could
Exactly.
see
That's what I was
more.
going to say. You would
Yeah.
get a volume 2 on it, which would be good. Like Golden Rage, because it sold so well before that, they come out with that second volume, as I'm being sarcastic about that. But so obviously there was an audience if they came out with a second story. So that's good then. All right. And that's number 1. That was it, man. Holy cow. That went quick.
I know it
So,
was a weird week because the only big book that came out was Amazing Spider-Man, and then obviously the others were kind of
yeah.
smaller.
All right. So then let's go into our top 3 most anticipated books. And mine's messed up.
Are they
I
messed
don't
up?
even know. No, because G.I. Joe, well, my number 1 is messed up. G.I. Joe got pushed back a week.
Ah, that sucks.
So, and that was originally on my most anticipated. But I will give you my number 2, which is TMNT issue 8. That took a little while to come out, but we're continuing with that. Flipping awesome book. Absolutely love it. Best Turtle series I've read in a long time. and I'm excited about it. Then we get Redcoat issue 11 for me for my number 3, which we get a new character by the name of the Northerner. And so that's another one that's really good. The artwork is done by Brian Hitch on that one. So I'm just enjoying most of that Ghost Machine stuff. So that's mine. And then Kat, you have for your number 3, you have Absolute Flash issue 2.
Yeah, you get the Rogues. I liked issue 1. I thought it was pretty solid, especially the art I really liked. So I just want to see the twists and turns. Like Absolute's just been killing it. So, and like I said, I want to see what the Rogues are all about.
Yeah, man. I think like I didn't even know it was them though at first. When they
Yeah.
first showed them, I'm like, who are these guys? Yeah, and then because they showed them from a little bit of a distance, and then they did like a close up on what was it, Captain Cold,
Mhm.
and I'm like, wait a
Oh.
second, I'm like, that's him because of his glasses. That was the only reason why I knew that. And so I was like, oh, okay. I'm like, these are the Rogues. Now I get it. Because again, I'm not that big DC guy, so it's
Sure.
hard for me to always, tell, So, all right. And then let's see, you got the Summer of Superman special issue 1.
Yeah, I mean, I want to see what's going on with this event. I was just saying earlier, the Superman, I think, is just one of the best titles on stands. It's the way to do a flagship book. It's the way to do a book that's in the regular universe. So I'm not usually an event person, but I'm actually pretty excited for this event.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see, what Superman has to offer. It's a big year for the character. I mean, between all the books and the movie coming out, I think it's going to be very interesting. And I am very curious about that Dan Slott book when that comes out too. So we'll see. All right, and then you have, I know this is one of your favorites. So you got the exceptional X-Men that dance in the dance studio as their headquarters. So
No, now Mr. Sinister is in it. So we
yes,
have that. But
and
you
I
know, I
did
love
read
this
that
book.
last issue.
Yeah, you did. So you saw the
Yeah,
cliffhanger. I'll tell you if I like, because the last issue I remember saying like no, it's tied into the event too much. But no, I love this book. I'm a huge Kitty Pryde fan, and it's just the side of the X-Men that I love, and I just think that the creative team really understands. And something we were talking about with like Hulk, and we were talking about it with Absolute Batman too. A lot of these books always have like their premiere artists that are there for like 2 issues and then they leave. We are up to issue 8, and it's been the same artist constantly. It's been the same artist, and I think that's great because she's really great. And one of the Marvel's premier artists too. So yeah, I just love this book. If you're a Kitty fan, I think you're gonna enjoy it.
that's cool. I mean, listen, I'm glad you like it. I know, same thing. It's not my typical like X book, but like you said, there's an X-Men book for everybody. You know what
And
I'm
that's
saying?
all we
At
have
least
to ask for.
that's what they try.
Yeah.
And I think they're like, okay, well, we're gonna do our 3 main titles, and then we're gonna have 3 secondary titles, and then we're gonna have a shit ton of solo books. And somebody's gonna like some kind of X book somewhere out there.
I mean, look at X Factor. I think that's a great example too. Like literally, everyone's got a favorite X book here. Like if you like comedy X-Men, go read X Factor. Like
I
that's a
think
great
probably
book.
out of the team books, that is my favorite team book,
Yeah.
the X Factor book, because I like how it actually changes. Like it's not afraid to, push the envelope a little bit, change up the roster a little bit,
Or
have a depth,
Suicide Squad.
right? You know what I'm saying? And then I feel like it has a little bit of drama. It has some humor. There's a lot of stuff that's going on in there, and I like that. So that's a fun book, I think.
No, and again, that's what I'm saying about the X-Men. You do not need to love every title, but like with Krakoa in particular, for me, it was really hard to get into any title. I was just like, I don't like this. I don't like this. This is too connected to this, and it just was
Especially to
really
the
hard.
end because they were
Yeah.
all connected to each other in some way, shape, or form. And you're like, if you didn't read one book, then you're flipping lost in the other one, So I totally get that. I think Krakoa had a huge potential. And when Hickman was gone, once he left, that's when that whole thing went down the drain.
Oh,
I think I
100%.
think he had a whole vision on what he wanted, and I don't think he had the control that he wanted. And so that's when it's like, okay, well, see ya. I'm not doing this anymore.
And I think that's when it lost control too, from all the titles, because they never really became too cohesive. So that's why, again, you don't have to love every X-Men title right now, but I think there's something there. It's sad. Bear F said the X Factor's ending next issue. That's
Is it
definitely
really?
that sucks, because I really like that book
I
too. And I
didn't
like
even know that. That's
me either.
100% true.
And that's what sucks about, like, again, like news lately too, is that because comic news isn't released as it used to be, like pre-COVID. Like, you used to find out like when things are canceled, and that doesn't really happen anymore. You kind of just read the book, you're like, oh, it's canceled, awesome. I kind of wish that they would release more articles, but I think probably the reason being is because, like, obviously DC and Marvel get hits when that happens. When they cancel your favorite book, they don't want to hear about it, so they'd rather silently do it. But I like to know when things get canceled. Yeah, Bear F said that NYX and X Factor are canceled. They sold the least. I could see why they sold the least, though. NYX in particular, because it was just such a minor character type book.
Yeah.
X Factor too, like, they're, the leads aren't the biggest X-Men characters, but I liked it. I enjoyed
No,
it. And I thought
I
the art
mean,
was good.
like, I could totally see NYX. Like, I
Yeah.
knew from the start that I felt that that book was going to get canceled, right? X Factor has a more prominent, it has more potential because you have had a cast of characters in the past that are heavy hitters. And then I felt like in this book, you still did. Like, you still had Havoc, you still had Angel, you still had Polaris. And I feel like, unfortunately, that story was just really kind of getting started there,
No,
and
okay.
I don't think people really gave it a chance. And that's unfortunate, So, it is
I
what it is.
honestly, I wouldn't have read it if Mark Russell and Bob Quinn weren't on it. So that it
Right.
could have just slipped under people's radar, because X Factor is not usually the most sellable title for. Yeah, I mean, how many times that
It's
specific franchise gotten canceled?
it's always been that secondary X title. You know what I'm saying? Like, even back in the day when you had X-Men, and then the main characters, the original X-Men, became the X Factor. It never really, it was good, and it still sold, obviously, because comics in the 80s always sold, but it still wasn't like as good as the X-Men,
Sure.
and over the years they changed. And but hey, it is what it is, and we'll see what happens. I'm surprised certain other books do last longer, but this is the way comics are,
I mean, even like Incredible Hulk right now, I think that's a book that's been spinning its wheels for a very
Oh
long
my
time.
god, yeah, I agree 100%. Like, that book could have ended ages ago. There is no reason for this story to continue the way it's been. And
No.
and that was the same thing. Like, I read that book for 2 years before I decided to say enough's enough, because we're not going anywhere with it. And it's like Avengers is the same way. I think we're reaching the 25th issue tomorrow or whatever it is. And I'm not buying it, because I finally said enough is enough, because I gave it 2 years.
Yeah.
Nothing has happened out of the story.
No, I think I read like 3 issues and I'm like, I can't. And then I read that Black Cat issue and she hardly showed up. And I was like, I'm good.
The issue after that was actually good. And but then it's like, now after that, it's just like, okay, well, now we're dealing with Doctor Doom, and we have a new, like, I think it's like Masters of Evil that's showing up in there. I'm like, listen, it's the same thing again. You're going to get a group of characters that randomly show up. They're all going to match up with each Avenger. They're going to do battle. And then it looks like the Avengers are going to lose. Then they come back and they win. And then we're going to do something else. It's very repetitive, and nothing really ever gets accomplished in there. So it's definitely a disappointment. And I'm a big Jed McKay guy. Like, I like him. I think he does do decent stuff. But again, team writing is not his strong suit, I feel.
Yeah. Sad.
Absolutely. So there we have it. Hopefully Marvel will do better and come out with some better titles like DC has. It's funny because about 10 years ago, we were opposite. It
No,
was
yeah.
Marvel was doing all the right things, and DC was the one that was struggling. And now the times have changed, and we'll see what happens in the future here. So, and that's it. That's all we got.
That's
So
the
hopefully you
show.
guys enjoyed the show.
Yeah, I had a good time. Again, it was a smaller pile, but next week seems to have some cool books as well. I'm enjoying the smaller pile compared to what we had last month. I feel like this at least is more a little evenly distributed. And we have, a couple more weeks. We very soon we have free comic book day already, which is kind of
I
crazy.
know,
So,
man. That's crazy, dude.
yeah, I can't believe
I'm
that.
excited. I'm
Me
excited for
too.
that. And I am happy about the smaller pile too, because I can actually like take my time in reading and I don't have to read so
Same.
many books at once. And it's nice, it's enjoyable. It'll give you a little bit of a break.
Yeah, no, I feel the same way because I hate when I'm reading like 30 books and I feel like I can't like digest everything. This is so much easier to read. And again, you get to like enjoy the books a little bit more. And I think I have a similar pile for tomorrow. I could take like, I know you read even more, but like 12 to 15, that's a great sweet spot for me.
I think
Any
like up to 20 is
mm,
my sweet spot just because the way I
right.
do my videos. So it's
And
like,
you read it all through the week or not read it in one
yeah,
day.
like
So
usually I like to have for worthy ones, I like to have like 7
mm,
books to talk about for that video. So like I'll knock out 7 books right away. And then if that only leaves me with like 12 or 13 books left for the week, like that's ideal, if, perfect for me. But when you have 30 and then you read 7 and then you only have like you still have 23 left to read and then you read another 10 and you're like, damn, I still got 13 left to go. And it's just like, and then you got to make the videos on top of it. It's a
yeah.
lot. It's so much.
No, I feel you on that. I hope that doesn't happen again anytime soon. That's not what I want. So I haven't done my list for May. Usually I'll do it like around this time, so we'll see. But April's looking good. April's looking solid. And I am curious about Free Comic Book Day. I'm curious to see what books we're gonna have there. I don't even know what's out because of the whole diamond situation. So I'm curious to see how that's gonna do. In the next couple of weeks.
Yeah. I'm excited for it though, still. So I definitely, I'm going to shout out. I got a package in the mail from a comic store in Pennsylvania. It's called
Oh,
Dimension X. So I'm going to do an unboxing video on Sunday and then promoting their free comic book day advertisement that they had in there as well. They also have uh, a store on eBay, so you can buy their comics there. But yeah, I'll be looking for that for Sunday. So curious to see what they sent me. Really excited about that. So I know I always shout out my own comic shop, but I don't get a chance to shout out other comic
yeah,
shops.
it's cool to share the
So
love.
yeah, if there's anybody out there that has a comic shop and you want me to shout you out, hey, just let me know. Send me an email. My email is in my video, so check it out. But I think with that, Kat, I think we're gonna sign off for the night.
We are. So we'll see you one in the next one. Hopefully all three of us will be on.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. But guys, thank you so much for watching. On your way out, give this video a thumbs up if you liked it. And of course, guys, subscribe to Comic Book Corner 2.0 if you haven't. Subscribe to Cat Comic Uno and subscribe to Only Good Comics, which is Brant's YouTube channel as well. And guys, enjoy your new comic book day, and we will see you next week. Take care, guys. Good night.